Hey guys, Kiwi here. In this video, I'll be breaking down and analyzing everything going on in King Ezekiel's head right now, along with what has provoked him to rise up and march to war in the most recent episode of The Walking Dead, Season 7, Episode 13, Bury Me Here. With that being said, a warning of spoilers for everything in the show up to Episode 7:13, and let's jump right into it. Alright, so as a quick recap, King Ezekiel originally denied Rick's offer to rise up together and fight the Saviors for their freedom back in 709 when Rick came to the kingdom for the first time. Ezekiel has kept his deal with the Saviors secret from the rest of his kingdom, leading him to be caught off guard due to Jesus not asking him permission to tell Rick of this secret. Along with the fact that Ezekiel doesn't know anything of Rick or his group before this day, he doesn't enjoy the idea of sending his men out to battle whatsoever. I've mentioned this in a previous video, but in the comics we learn that Ezekiel is very underconfident with sending his men into battle. This is all because Ezekiel has just been so on the fence about rising up and marching to war with Rick Grimes. And I'll avoid any comic book spoilers, but this all ties into the fact that Ezekiel cares so deeply for his people and his community. He doesn't want to make the situation worse for his people or himself, but the episode 7:13 slowly hints at many implications that influence Ezekiel to change his mind by the end of it. Although Ezekiel hates the idea of making deals with the Saviors, it's the best way to keep peace between them, ensuring that his people would be safe no matter what. At least he thought that. What Ezekiel learns in 7:13 is that your people are never safe when it comes to the Saviors, even if you do everything right. With that being said, let's look at our first scene with him during 7:13, which involves him looking over his beautiful kingdom while his people go about their peaceful day. This is meant to show how Ezekiel is very proud with the community he's established and kept going, as it is truly his dream come true. He's so proud of the kingdom and his people that he's too scared to put them in any sort of risk in any way, shape, or form. Sadly, Ezekiel's peaceful, happy moment is broken up by a woman coming to tell him about the fact that his royal garden is infected. She informs him that his garden needs to be pulled out and burned before they can infect the rest of the crops, which obviously sucks considering how important you can tell they were to Ezekiel. That being said, his royal garden along with this entire scene is an analogy for how he feels about the kingdom. He loves what he has created and he can't imagine it ever being harmed or destroyed. When the woman tells him that his garden is ruined and needs to be burned down, he has a great difficulty coming to terms with the idea of losing all that progress. What she tells him next, though, is a perfect example of how he needs to look at the kingdom moving forward. She informs him that although he created something beautiful and it needs to be destroyed, he can always create another beautiful thing in the future. If Ezekiel had the knowledge and willpower to create something magnificent the first time, he can hypothetically break it all down and start from scratch again. It would take a lot of work, but when you're cutting your losses like that, you don't have much of a choice. And instead, you just need to look at the positive and push forward and create the best future you can for whatever you believe in. This huge analogy for King Ezekiel could easily be missed, but it holds such a deep meaning that I just love pointing it out and appreciating it. It's reasons like this that make me love The Walking Dead so much, as you can tell that they've just put layers upon layers of storytelling and character progression, along with foreshadowing and deeper meanings and missable details the more and more you look into things. The fate that King Ezekiel's garden faces during this episode is the best possible example of what Ezekiel will have to learn to face here at the kingdom, including his community and all of the people living in it. It's no coincidence that he just so happened to be overlooking all of his people walking by during this scene, as it's heavily implied that his garden can be considered to be the kingdom in this situation. The Savior's infected, and they need to be taken out before they can do more damage to other people. This, of course, reminds me of the Rock in the Road story that Rick told Ezekiel during 709, mentioning how the girl dug the rock out because she couldn't grasp the concept of why it was still there to hurt someone else as well. Ezekiel is scared of sending his men out to battle and die, along with the potential risk of his community getting attacked as well. But although something like that could happen, or even something worse like the kingdom potentially being destroyed and ruined completely, he can still rebuild afterwards and create something even better if he wins. And let me know what you guys think about that, but moving on to the main climax of the episode, let's jump to Benjamin getting shot in the leg and what it's done to impact Ezekiel's perspective. As a quick recap, Savior Jared ends up shooting Benjamin in the leg instead of killing Richard, resulting in their entire meeting going to shit. Gavin freaks out at Jared along with the rest of his crew, telling them to stand down and get in their vehicles, but before Gavin lets Ezekiel go, he tries drilling the rules into Ezekiel's head one last time, still trying to conclude the meeting and get his point across. Although Ezekiel says that he understands, he's understanding something completely different than what Gavin is implying. What Ezekiel is understanding in this moment is that he cannot work to keep peace with the Saviors no matter what he does. He handed over his weapons to Gavin when asked. He even tried to offer 2 times tribute in response to being 1 cantaloupe short, and Benjamin still ends up getting shot. Whether it's just someone pissing off the Saviors due to what they say, or if it's someone trying to sabotage the entire situation, conflict with the Saviors is proven to be beyond Ezekiel's control. This realization Ezekiel is having about the Saviors is the same realization that Rick had about them during 708 after getting caught up to speed by Negan with everything that's happened. Rick tried to do everything he could to serve the Saviors, and yet Aaron still got beat up for no reason in front of him, and some of his people died as well. Regardless of if the Saviors are being assholes or if people are trying to sabotage their truce, peace with the Saviors is just straight up impossible to keep, especially long term. As the next morning arrives, Ezekiel watches his beautiful garden being torn up and thrown out to burn. This relates to the fact that although Ezekiel tried so hard to help turn Benjamin into a strong, smart soldier, he still ended up dying. But by the end of the episode, Ezekiel is on his knees replanting the garden alongside Benjamin's younger brother, proving that he has the willpower to rebuild. Also, this is of course when Carol comes to speak with him at the end of the episode, telling him that they need to get ready to fight. And tying into what I just said previously, all Ezekiel does is agree with Carol, as he's come to terms with understanding the current situation, along with realizing that he needs to rise up and fight for their freedom. I'm hoping to see more conversation between Ezekiel and Carol involving the Saviors, Rick Grimes, and Alexandria in general. As Ezekiel had already come to the conclusion of fighting the Saviors himself, Carol didn't need to do much convincing like I had predicted that she would have. Let me know how you guys feel about all of this in the comments section below, along with how you think Carol and Ezekiel will handle marching to war in the future. I really wish Daryl would have just dealt with the annoyance of Morgan and Richard and stayed at the kingdom instead of marching to the hilltop all on his own. He would have definitely been useful during episode 713, along with the fact that he would have been there at the end of the episode alongside Carol and Ezekiel. So how do you think that this episode would have been different if Daryl would have been there the entire time? Either way though, that's pretty much it for this video breakdown, guys. If you've enjoyed anything I've said today, feel free to hit that thumbs up button or even possibly subscribe if you haven't yet already. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.